Hello everyone, this is Moehawkman back again with another free-to-play only RuneScape money making guide. So for the first method in today's video, I decided to test out cowhides. This is a really old way of making money and I just wanted to test it out if it still worked. So it actually can make you around 300k an hour depending on your combat stats. So I would personally recommend you be level 45 mage or 45 range so that you can get the chain or ricochet ability, which attacks 2 additional targets after the first hit. And another thing that I would recommend people doing is having the loot interface on. And the only way to turn that on is you go to your settings, then you go to your gameplay, then you go to item drops, and then you go to the loot system and then check all 3 of those boxes and it pops open a little window when you collect an item as long as it's within 3 spaces of you, or technically 3 spaces of the loot. And then it just grabs everything if you want to loot all, but you have to personally get single items if you need them. Now, to maximize your gold gain, I would personally recommend you go to the farm near Taverley Lodestone, because that's the place where all the cows are closer together and you can farm them much easier. Also, higher combat stats does help, because if you can insta-kill them, then this makes pretty easy money. It only takes around 2 minutes to loot 1 inventory, depending on, just how fast you kill or how fast you're looting and, maybe misclicks here and there, but you can still make around 300k an hour. This is pretty good money for new players who just don't know where to get started, because cowhides sell for like 430 GP each, depending on how long you're willing to wait. I insta-sold at 417 because I wasn't willing, but you could make a little bit more money than I did, which you will see at the end of this little clip. This is a pretty decent way of making money if you are a new player, so please consider it. Now, the next 2 methods involves runecrafting. The first method, which is air runes, and the second method, which is fire runes. Now, before you begin, I would recommend you getting a explorer's ring number 2, because you have an additional 10% chance to make another rune per essence in your inventory when you make them, but only for air, water, earth, and fire. And that little 10% starts to add up over time the longer you do this. Another piece of helpful information for you is your rune crafting level actually determines how many additional runes you can make. So for air runes, you make an additional one at level 11, 22, 33, and it keeps going all the way up to 99. So for me, since I was 90 runecrafting when I made this clip, I can make more than someone who would be at, let's just say 44 or 33. So the higher your level, the more profit you can make from air runes. And the same also applies to fire runes, but that one is not as high because you need to be 35 or level 70 to make additional runes for fire runes. So you have to calculate which one is more profitable for you, because air runes are only 39 GP each, but fire runes are 97 GP each, at least when I made this video. So you have to consider which one makes me more money overall versus one or the other. For me, fire runes can make me more money because their sale price is higher than air runes. So it's really up to you to figure out what your actual calculations can be for profit per hour. So at the end of the clip, I made around 150k from the air runes I did for like 15 minutes or so, and for fire runes I made around 175k. So it's pretty close for me, but for you it could be different, because if your rune crafting level isn't high enough to make the additional fire rune, I would personally recommend air runes. Now, I did do a simple test with earth and water runes, but they don't sell for nearly as high, so my profit was drastically less. My personal recommendation is, if your level is not 70 or higher, I would just go with making air runes over fire runes, just because the profit margins don't make much of a difference if you're going for just like half hours here or half hours there. But if you're going to do this for like 5-6 hours, then you might want to consider fire runes, because it is slightly closer to a bank. Now, another little tidbit that I would recommend is having the mage ability called Surge. It requires level 30 magic, but it can teleport you up to 10 meters in the direction that you are facing. So if you press it at the right time, you can go farther, but if you mess up like a couple of times that I did in the clip, you might like run into a wall, but you can sometimes clip through fences if you time it properly. So you got to figure out when to press it and when not to. And one last little bit of information that doesn't really affect you too much is your overall cost of the essence themselves. So for air ruins, you're going to use around 1.5k to 1.6k per hour, which equates to around 33k total for all the essence. And for fire ruins, you're going to use around 2k to like 2.2k depending on how often you click and stuff like that. This equates to around 42k to 46k of overall cost. So you need to consider that when you do this. So I personally would suggest you just do a little test of maybe 5-10 minutes and then, you know, consider that before you do this for an hour or 2 hours or however long you want to. But for me, if I really do this for an hour, I can make around 600k for air ruins and around 700k for fire ruins. So for me, the answer is more obvious. For others, it may not be. So I would consider doing smaller tests before you continue onwards. The numbers become a bit too skewed the higher you go, or the longer you do this. Now the last method is more dangerous, which is cursed energy. And this requires you to go to the wilderness volcano just north of the wilderness lodestone teleport. Now I don't recommend this method for low level players because when you're holding cursed energy, you can be attacked by any combat level, meaning a 126 combat level can attack a level 3. But the risk can be quite beneficial because you can make anywhere between 1.3 mil and 2.1 mil an hour depending on what the street price is going for. Now those numbers are based on getting between 5k and 7k cursed energy an hour and then selling those for either the high amount or the low amount. So 5k for 260 GP each or 7k for 310 each. And that's where I got those numbers from. Now what greatly affects how much you make per hour is multiple things. Like for example, how often do you bank and how much do you bank when you go? Are you killing bots? Are you gathering the energy while you're waiting to kill bots? Are you dying several times per hour? And how much were you carrying when you died? How often do you kill the bots? And then the price that you sell it. All of these little things you need to consider affects how much you make overall. Now I tested two separate methods of doing this. The first method was just killing the bots but not gathering the energy myself. And I stood there for about half an hour and I got around 2.1k or so, which only equates to around 4k an hour, which is pretty slow. And the second method that I tested was not only was I killing bots, but I was also gathering my own energy. And in just 15 minutes alone, I was able to get 1.6k energy. The only problem was I actually died shortly after that, so I pretty much didn't get anything. I also lost around 200k worth of combat gear, so the benefits versus the risk and reward, it's debatable depending on how risky you want to be. I personally should have banked after 1,000, which is my own personal recommendation. If you don't want to risk holding that much energy, you can do it at 500 or whatever your personal preference is. I would also recommend doing this with a team so you have more survivability, but that's just my own opinion. And for the last little thing, I'm actually starting to run out of ideas, guys, because there's only so much you can do in free-to-play. So if anyone actually has any suggestions or potential ideas that I could put into a video, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will consider them for another video. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and leave a comment, subscribe if you want to, and I will keep trying to post regularly. Anyways, guys, that's all from me. This has been Moehawkman. You guys have a nice day, and be safe. Peace out, everybody.